I feel a slot.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, in that case, we'll just have to have
We're live. We're live.
Oh, we are. You
This
gotta
is
give us
always
a
this
little
always
warning.
happens. I'm sorry. I told you it's counting down. Welcome to another episode of Panakal Podcast for Geeks, the show my good friends hanging out. We're never prepared.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Okay, in that case,
Yeah.
we'll just have to have
We're live. We're streaming somewhere. Hang on.
You gotta give us a
This
little
always
warning.
happens. I'm sorry. I told you it's
Facebook.
counting
It's on
down.
Facebook.
Welcome to another episode of Panakal Podcast for Geeks, the show my good friends hanging out. We're never
No.
prepared.
Oh,
I hear
clearly.
myself.
Okay, in that case,
Yeah.
we'll just have to have
We're live. Hang on a second, guys. I hear myself talking, but I can't find myself. This always happens. I'm sorry. I told you it's counting down. There we go. Sorry about that to anyone who's watching. I had a YouTube link open to the site because I had to change the guest because our original guest got sick and she had to cancel. And Melissa, our guest today, is Melissa Sue Stanley, who was nice enough to step in. And what you heard for the first X there was my own voice repeating back to me because welcome to being me. And that's just what happened.
And Melissa you have the show's going on right now, right until the end of the month.
Yeah, I have a show in Chicago
And
at
she canceled?
Roto Fuji Gallery going on. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. I definitely want to ask you about like your sculpting stuff and all that with the WoolBeasts, because I've seen those in the Stifflet forum. They look really awesome.
Thanks.
So, is it Roto Fuji?
I always say Roto Fuji. I think that's right. That's right.
Man.
Oh, do you know where that is, Alan?
I'm not getting a video feed over. Oh, there it is. Anyone who's watching, tell me the video doesn't come in. I know where it is. I went to her opening actually.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is it like downtown?
No,
No,
what is
it's
that
in
area? Lincoln Park?
It's like right between Lincoln Park and Lakeview, I think.
Yeah, Lincoln Park and Lakeview.
Neighborhood.
I used to live in Lakeview, so it's one of those places that I actually really enjoy going to. The problem with going in there is you end up buying toys. Or they're not really toys, they're like sculpts and figures.
Cool shit, and you're like, oh,
well, it's all like those vinyl sculpts and stuff that you can't really find anywhere. It's very... Whoa!
Yeah, we have
there goes that.
400 of them. I'm looking at them all. We have a big display case. We can't stop. I don't think I have any on my desk right now, but yeah, it's a problem.
I mean, they have this cool thing where, well, I can maybe talk about this, but I had something else picked out.
I was gonna say before we get too far into the WoolBeasts and the show and all that, we do a thing at the start of the hour always.
I always forget.
Alan always vaguely forgets.
Yeah. Well, what you need is like a Friday night Channel 5 theme song. You got to be like
the little news
rolling TGIF do hey, it's Friday night.
That's
podcast for Geeks. Hey everybody.
Oh. We always do the thing where it's what's something cool.
It's not a bad idea. It would probably remind me to pick some. I mean, I just look to the right over here and then I just grab something random. I did Gundam last week, right?
Like show and tell. You just grabbed something on the way out the door and you're like, this is my...
So the idea came from when I first started doing the video podcast idea. It was with Gavin back in the day. And the idea came from us just randomly. We would always be talking about some random thing we discovered during the week. I mean, one time, I remember one episode he talked about LaCroix, or LaCroix, however you say it. And I was like, seriously, you can talk about drinks? All right. But, usually we're on top of it. I keep forgetting. And that's just
you gotta have it on like a little thing above your computer.
I should just post it up here. Don't forget your thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll go first because I am very mundane and boring.
Man, if you're gonna talk about Dave the Diver, I'm gonna cut you loose.
Well, I've still been playing a lot of Dave the Diver. Still great. I wanted to mention I finished The Mountain and the Sea, and
I picked it up, so I showed that.
Yeah. Melissa, I don't know if I forget what show it was that I mentioned it first, but I picked up the book shortly before I went on vacation, or my wife got it for me shortly before we went on vacation, and it's like this sci-fi eco-punk book about sentient octopuses.
What?
Yeah,
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 it's
it's really
Sounds
here.
fun.
fascinating.
It's the
It's
book.
like
It's the
this.
book I was holding up.
Yeah,
Dude, I
this
got it for 50% off because we picked
Wow.
up several books.
Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to, I tried to go to the local. There's a local bookstore called Anderson Books. I would rather have given them the business, but they don't. 50%. I was like, I don't want to spend full price on 2 books.
No, that's fair.
It's just,
Um,
I got 4 books there, and got a bunch for the kids.
Yeah, though it's about is she a geneticist? No, she's a marine biologist, and she's contracted to like study these possibly sentient octopuses, and then it just dives deep into that.
Huh.
And yeah, there's a lot of like it's a very like eco punk sci-fi future kind of thing because there's things like overfishing, uh, heavy AI things everywhere.
Weird.
Yeah, no, it was a great read. Uh, Highly
I like it
recommend it.
'cause I'm very much into the idea right now that like octopi are
Octopi.
super sentient. Like we stopped eating them because we're like they're doing like Rubik's cubes and stuff, and like
Yeah.
Exactly.
doing
Yeah,
their
I
taxes.
used
We're like
to
we can't eat octopus anymore.
I used to eat them too, like occasionally, not often, but like occasionally. But yeah, I turned around on that, and
Just like
I think
yeah,
octopus and squid were the only. I can eat pretty much anything when it comes to seafood because I grew up eating seafood. But octopus and
mhm.
squid, for some reason, always make me feel not like sick, but I always this weird like.
yeah,
I feel like it's the ink. Maybe it's still in the system, but I always feel a little bit like something's like I may be poisoned. Like it's an
Yeah,
odd feeling.
don't eat them anyway. They're
I
too
mean,
smart.
I
Like
stopped I
we
stopped
can't
eating
eat
that kind of
they
stuff years ago.
even this is a point. It's talked about very early on in the book, so I'm not spoiling anything for you, Alan. But they mention like literally the only thing more or less holding the octopuses back is the fact that they right now they do not like raise their young or anything, or they don't pass on anything beyond like whatever genetically they've imbued. Like each each successive generation of octopuses has to figure shit out from square one. They don't carry anything over. That's like the main
They're just like,
hurdle
good
to
luck,
their
son.
it is. It's like that's their main hurdle as to why they as intelligent as they are, why they haven't like gone beyond that because they don't have like, humans and other like sapien species like rose out of the dirt because we had culture. We had culture. We were
Right.
able to like carry that onto each other, and that's like one of the major hurdles with octopuses.
It's kind of crazy that they survive. Like
Yeah,
if we did that to people, they would just die. Like
and and well, one other thing. So apparently, octopuses is indeed the plural of it.
octopuses.
octopuses.
Yeah, octopi is
Hmm.
not correct because that is a Latin suffix or Latin plural on it, and octopus is not a Latin root; it is a Greek root. So it'd actually be octipodes because that's the Greek plural, but that's also not correct. It's just octopus.
Just learning stuff on this
Yeah,
podcast.
that is
Oh,
my thank you
don't get
for.
Andrew started, man. this can go
We have a
places we don't.
whole platypus thing.
Oh, there's a whole
Asking
platypus
us
thing you could
about.
talk about. We could save
Wow,
that
the
for.
little suckers are freaky. I don't know.
Very
Don't
freaky.
don't get
Also,
Andrew started
not
on
delicious apparently.
don't
But
get him started on those, man. It goes on forever.
Melissa, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I have two things. The one of them was just to follow like circle back on drinks. Okay, so it's like the summer of pickles. I'm very excited. Like what a time to be alive. I'm a big pickle fan. And so my jam is I get the plain seltzer, polar, that's the best one. You pour it in a cup and then you put like 2 tablespoons of pickle brine in it.
You get
Oh,
Summer,
Polar Seltzer.
yeah,
like
just
That's a
plain.
company.
Or like a blue LaCroix, whatever the plain one is.
like
Mm.
a non-alcoholic.
Dump like dump 2 tablespoons of pickle brine in there.
What was
And
the weird
then
drink you were talking about at dinner with me when I came out to the gallery show? It was you guys came up with it. It was the one with the Tabasco sauce or something in the.
oh, that's just what we drink like in the summer. Like which I hadn't done in a while, and I was like really happy that they got that. We used to like have apartments with like no air conditioning, so you just be hot. So we would do like a Tecate or something like that in a glass with ice cubes, and then put like 3 or 4 blops of Cholula in it, and that was just like beating the heat. I think that's actually a thing.
It might be an actual thing. That's the first time I saw it, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, because the waitress just brought me an empty glass that had like the whole bottom of the glass was full of Cholula, and I was like, "This is great," because I just poured my beer in. I was like,
spicy. She was making sure you were. I was like, "That's well." I mean, I don't know. Maybe it tastes good. What was the second thing you want to talk about?
Oh, so yeah, I mean, you're like, well, what's going on? It's always going to be Gorman. I watched Gormangast this week for the first time.
Gormangast?
Gormangast. It's a.
You have to specify what that is.
It's
really not on.
Didn't Dave McKean do like a Folio Society book?
Yeah, so Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean just did the Folio Society version of this, that they were selling all 3 books
really pretty.
for, I want to say $1,200 each.
Oh, not that pretty.
$1,200. Is Gaiman part of that project?
He was doing like the introduction. I think he owns some of the, I don't know exactly how it works, but he owns some of the rights right now because he's supposed to be working on a TV adaptation.
Okay.
Or a new adaptation of it, which is adorable.
I've never even heard of this. Or maybe I have and I just don't remember.
Yeah, how is it? Because I remember I saw the Dave McKean thing and I was curious about it, but I haven't picked it up yet.
Yeah, so it's right up there with Lord of the Rings. It was first, the second book was published in 1950, right?
So it's a fantasy book?
It's a fantasy. Yeah, it's high fantasy. It's very like poetic. I always say like Lord of the Rings is like Tolkien writing about the grass and the forests and like waxing on about like the leaves rustling, and you feel like you're in nature. And then Gormangast is a shitty, dilapidated castle that's like thousands of years old and is falling into ruins. And the way he writes it, Marvin Peake writes it, is you can smell it. It's disgusting. It's like you never go outside. It's like the complete opposite, but at the same level of writing.
Right. I think it's cool when authors can make you really feel like you're living in that environment, and all the characters
all the characters are batshit crazy. Like they all have insane names and they are all just completely nutburgers. Like, so it's that. It's like I liken it to like a Terry Gilliam film because it's very like beige and odd and British. But anyway, so the BBC in the year 2000 did a 4-part miniseries, which I have read the books like 4 or 5 times now, and I've never watched it. And I finally was like, I'll sit down and it's on YouTube, and it's hilarious. If you haven't read the books, you'll just be like, what is this nightmare?
I probably would rather read the books. We'll see.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like watching like an old Doctor Who episode or something.
I can't even. Someone gave me the 3-book set for my birthday like 3 years ago, and I had never even heard of it. And I started reading it, and then I just texted him. I'm like, "What is this horrible like nightmare?"
That's beige. What's that book that I read?
Beigeness full of crazy people you've given me.
I
read it like 4 times since then. So
I think I talked about it on the show. It's called The Vey. I think VEY. It's like an old horror book. Like, you can get it for like $2 on Amazon. Okay, it's written by like, I don't know, some old German author. I think it's crazy. And then somebody made a movie out of it. There's a modern version, and there's this old version, and the old version's just like 1950s level creepy. And then the modern version is like nightmare fuel because they're like, oh, we have the technology. Let's make this as scary as we fucking can. You know. Yes. By the way, you could see on the show, no problems there.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. Like, so that's why I finally watched it, was because the cast is like all of like the British all-stars from the 2000s. So it's like Stephen Fry and Fiona Shaw and Christopher Lee. It's cool. All these huge names just goofing off in ridiculous costumes and prancing around. So Christopher Lee, there's a scene in like towards the end, like in the last 2 episodes, he becomes a hermit, and I swear to Christ, he's wearing his Saruman makeup. Because I'm like, they had to have made these at the same time, and so he's a hermit, and he's got this like parted, long white wig with like a long beard. I'm like, that's the same exact. He just came from set.
Well, he
to
was
this.
like apparently like a huge. I don't want to say he hung out with Tolkien, but he was like
Oh yeah,
he
almost
probably did
married
know.
someone, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
he was just like they were talking about how when I remember reading an article about how when he was on the set of the movies, he would like tell Peter Jackson stuff like, "No, that's not how this happened. This is how it happened. Blah blah blah. We're
right.
gonna do it this way." And people were
Yeah,
like,
he's super
"What?"
into
It's like
Yeah.
That story though is related to when he was a Nazi hunter.
that
'Cause,
too.
like, yeah, because like Peter Jackson was like, oh, like, you know, he's gonna stab you in the back. Wormtongue's gonna stab you in the back. You're gonna make this sound. And Christopher Lee's like, no. People don't make that sound when they're stabbed in the back. And he's like, I
Yeah.
know this because
I stabbed many people in the back.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of left it like weirdly that.
Wow.
All right, what did you find around your
well, I ran around the house, ran around my room. I said I found my. Whoa! It turned on. It's an Ultra Saber, but if it works better if you actually put the.
Put the blade in it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool if you hit things.
Yeah.
It should work, but it doesn't right now. Man, I am not selling this to you guys at all.
I can hear the sound effect a little bit. It's like occasionally getting picked up by the.
It's supposed to. Yeah, see.
Yeah.
I actually got Violet one too, so she can hit it. But
nice.
It does like.
Are they like battle capable or like is the plastic?
Supposedly, I haven't hit anything with it, but it does this. So it does this thing when you flick it and just turns on, which is cool.
Oh, that's cool.
But this guy was next to me at. I have Ultra Sabers in the corner, but this guy was next to me at Origins, and he was eyeballing my work the whole time. This one's cool too. Have you guys played the new? What's the new one called? Star Wars Force.
Jedi Survivor?
No. There's a part 2 that just came out.
Is that games?
Is it Survivor? Well, it's his saber basically.
I don't know his name. I just know him as the Redneck Jedi because everyone keeps putting him in mullets and mustaches.
He's the one who played. He was in Gotham. He plays the Joker in the show Gotham, and then
I saw like 3 minutes of Gotham. That was it.
Kellen, what's his name? Somebody watching, tell me.
With a C. I just know it's Redneck.
No, it's a K. I thought. Either way, this is his saber, and I think it's kind of cool because like these you can actually put it all together, take it all apart. But it's got like it's.
I thought for sure when you did that, like 5 double D batteries were gonna come sliding out.
It's got one giant battery that you have to charge. It's got like you can see all the chipsets and everything, which I thought was kind of cool.
I'm just a child of the 80s. I'm just like, don't do that. All the batteries are gonna keep flying out.
It is. It's about as heavy as a mag light. I'll tell you that right now. Dude. And then it's gonna keep doing this until it should auto turn off, which I haven't quite sorted out how to turn it off yet. So whatever. I thought this was kind of cool.
That's neat, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to do a quick random, since we were talking about Rotofugi and all the cool things they have, what I picked up there was a little Ultraman.
Boop.
Oh, he's so cute.
And can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Funko or is that like someone else?
No. So that's the thing. They have a ton of companies. Like this one's called New Generation Heroes, and it comes with like his own little character card.
Oh yeah.
It comes with a little building.
I don't think very any Funko. I think it's all.
If anything, that's a plus.
For that reason, it's just like
Well, what I like about these guys too is like the first one I opened wasn't an Ultraman. It was an Ultraman, but not the one I wanted. And Rotofugi has a thing where they're like, if you like the display one versus what you just got, you can swap.
For the blind boxes, right?
Yeah, so if you open a blind box and you got something you didn't want or something you already have, and the display one is something you don't have and you want it, you can swap it out real quick. And I thought, that's cool.
So since I've never been to this gallery, is it only sculptures in this gallery? Like in terms of or whatever, or is it?
No, so they do a lot of painting shows. I'm going tomorrow. There's a really great Chicago artist named Ennis Martin. He's got a new show going up on the walls, so that's gonna be super fun. He does like giant mechs with like whale feet that are being driven by kittens.
What?
These are paintings?
These are paintings. They're really great. And Ennis is very cool, and everyone should go to the show. So yeah, they do a lot of. They usually always have a painting show going on, and sometimes the painters might have sculpts or whatever, but then away from the walls, they have all the display cases with all the blind boxes. So and then they have a whole separate back like gallery room. So it's a big mix of.
I mean, it's got the company themselves have grown over the years. It used to be like a super tiny spot, and they got bigger and bigger. I think they're in a sweet spot. You and I were talking about this at your show. I'm like, man, I wonder if they own this building or they pay rent on it, because it's Lincoln Park. It's not cheap. It's not a cheap area.
It's a very big, like, beautiful white corner. It's like one of those like skinny corners, like of like the 6 corners in Chicago. Like, very lofty. We almost got married there. We couldn't figure out how to.
That.
Yeah.
Get everybody in there.
It was like our second choice. We couldn't get the parking and the chair, like the rentals, everything. It was just too much of a headache, but it was like top of the list for a while.
So for your show, like, are you just sculptures, or is it a mix of paintings and sculptures for WoolBeasts?
It's just sculptures. So I came up with the idea to have this show, and I sent an email to the owner and said, "Hey, I'll do this show." And then she was like,
"That's a good." I mean, yeah, I have a question about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So basically, what she said was like, we were booked for 2023. I think I asked her in like November of last year or something like that.
Dang.
And they were like booked. But I could do a show that was just sculptures and use the display cases if I wanted, because they do overlap shows. Like I said, like Ennis's is going up tomorrow, so there's always something going on in there. So like they're like, as long as you don't put anything on the walls, you can totally have a show. So that's why I did sculptures only, because I was like, I was gonna do sculptures and then some of my paintings, but I also don't care. So
it looked like you moved a few of them before we even left the show that day.
I think 2. Yeah, I think 2. I only did 10, so that's the other thing. It's like, it's nice because they have a really nice setup. So I felt weird bringing in only like 10, but they're 10 like very nice. I don't know, like
they were great,
man.
They
had like space to be appreciated, and they also looked like there was this little tiny show either. It was a very nice like layout, I thought.
I mean, I sent our Discord group a bunch of the images because like I like that I wanted the guy with the scarf. I was just like, oh, he's just outside. He's just a little outside my budget at the moment, but it was cool because like normally you see sculpts and it's just a sculpt, and your guys had like little messenger bag. He had little maps or something in my thing. He was holding a map in his hand. I was like, a little bit of attention to detail, which most people don't put.
I made a bunch of weird little stuff. Yeah,
that's cool, man. I was trying to think about when I think the first time you and I met was at Jeff's workshop, right? Is that where I met you?
No, we met in Nashville.
At the other workshop.
Yeah, and then
the one we won't name.
No, we just say Nashville. We're just hanging out.
We're just hanging out.
And then that's where I met you and like Lucas and Eric and Heather, I think. And then I just did the thing where I'm just like, I think it was with you and Lucas. I was like, you guys are from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
We're friends now. And then I just
yeah, that sounds about right. Except Lucas doesn't hang out with us at all. He does his own thing wherever he is.
I see him every now and then. He does stuff.
I saw him at C2E2. He came to dinner with us one night.
Yeah.
But okay, so that was Nashville. Okay, I was like, when did we first? Because I felt like I met a bunch of people in Jeff's workshop, and then everyone who was in that workshop.
You just went to the very, very first one, right?
I went to the very, very first one.
You've been to the ones since then. Yeah.
I just, it's always the week after Origins, and and it's like
mentally kind of burnt out.
It's so hard. Like even if I didn't have kids at home, it like going from a 4-day show to like a 4 or 5 day workshop, I'd be checked out. Like Miles, I think Miles did it twice. I think he went from Origins to that
too.
It's a solid week. It's a long it's a long workshop. But yeah, I remember like some of I think it was Miles or someone else. Like we were like rolling out, and they still had all their shit in the car. Like they opened up their hatch, and it was just full of.
Yeah, Miles went from Origins to the show. He was always like, "I'm just going straight there." I'm like, "I'm going home. I'm tired." This is like a 6-hour drive home. But yeah, I'm trying to remember who else was in that workshop. Tony was in that workshop. Miles, I met Miles, Tony,
Halloran.
Halloran. Yeah. So those are the 3 I kept in touch with mainly. there was one more person I can't remember. Tony's dad was cool too.
Tony's dad ruled.
He's fun to hang out with. So.
He's the most fun.
So what was so I have a question. So like
yeah,
the Rotofugi Gallery, was that the first time you got to do a show like that? And like, or was that even the first time that you just emailed a gallery to be like, "Hey, I want to do a show. Post to me."
No. So
get my shit in there now.
The last time I had a show at Rotofugi was in 2016. And it was the same thing where I was kind of like sitting around looking at my work and was like, I don't have a show at Rotofugi. So I emailed Kirby and I said, I'd like to do a show. And then they said, okay. I used to do a lot of like group shows and small work shows and stuff. And I kind of like, I just stopped doing it at some point because I'm like, I don't really like I would like to do more gallery work now, I think, as I'm getting older, but like not a lot of it, you know? So it's kind of more just like when I think of a thing, like in both cases, it's like I had a theme, I had an idea, I have a story, and I was like, okay, this is something that I want to do and I want to showcase, and I know Rotofugi is the right place to do it for what kind of work I'm doing. In both cases, it was the best gallery to show that kind of work with their market and just being local. So it just sent a compelling pitch, I guess, and it was easier the second time because my first show in 2016 did fairly pretty well. So when I came back, I was like, I want to do this now. Then
Before the 2016 gallery show, did you have like a prior working relationship with him, with like group shows and stuff, or was that like out of the blue? You just came off the street and be like, "Hey, I got this idea for a show."
I don't know if I had done a group show with them, but I was in that like scene. I was in like the designer toy, whatever that art. I was doing a lot more collectible figures. I hadn't really figured out what my like art was. I was just kind of like making a ton of little dudes and hustling and stuff. The other
I got one of them.
Yeah.
I can show that. Hang on, it's right here. He's on top of my my tower.
But I also had a good yes, little raspberry dude.
That is adorable.
Yeah. It's cool. My kid wants it. I was like, no,
too fragile. Yes. But it was like Rotofugi and then like a couple others, but that scene that like we were talking about this, we don't know what to call it really anymore. It was like lowbrow or like pop contemporary or something like that.
I call it pop contemporary. Sounds right.
But my husband at the time owned a gallery in Wicker Park, like Bucktown area, that did kind of almost the same sort of thing, just on different artists and different more paintings and stuff. But so it was kind of like in the network where we were going to the Rotofugi shows, and like that audience was coming to our shows, and it was an art collective called Ono Doom. They were super fun. There was like 5 or 6 people that like co-owned the gallery together. That's how I met Max. Was I went to a show there, and I was like,
"That's awesome."
He's sitting right
you were
there.
like, "This guy's cooler than the guy I'm married to right now."
Well, I mean, yeah, but I was getting it.
By the way, next to your sculpt is Andrew's sculpt too. It's,
oh yeah, the little Cthulhu.
Yeah. This thing you can brick somebody with.
Yeah. I think cold cast resin.
I love it.
Mixed in with bronze powder makes it very heavy and very deadly.
So anyway, yes, I was aware of the like. I don't know if I'd done a show, but like I knew
they knew who you were. You knew who they were and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Like right now with any kind of like fine art stuff I've been doing, it's mainly been with group shows, and it'd be nice to move out of that, but I'm not really there yet.
Yeah.
You also do
wise and like just in terms of like cultural cash.
I had to get out of group shows when I did like whatever year that was, because most of them in the kind of art that I was doing or like was able to just the shows I was able to get into, there was a lot of pop culture stuff, or it was just like really wacky themes that had no idea, like nothing to do with what I was doing. So my portfolio like 5 or 6 years ago was just a big garage sale. It's like here's this Star Trek piece I did, and then this like
Yeah.
Beetlejuice thing, and then like a unicorn, and then like this just like it was just madness. And it's like trying to like put together a portfolio, like, and you should hire me. Like,
I got this
so
cool unicorn that you seem to be looking at.
yeah, like everything sold, but at the end of the day, like my portfolio was just it was a garage sale. So I just stopped doing it and was like, I'm gonna just figure out what I'm doing for a while. It worked out.
I'd say it's working
when I
out.
think about it, like the pop culture thing could probably be one could probably leverage that into doing like advertising work kind of thing because that's exactly like what advertising freelance is. It's a fucking garage sale.
Yeah, like there's
My
it works for a
portfolio
lot of
is
people.
like
Also, if you
anything.
want to do like comic variant covers or like that kind of stuff, like like those kind of shows are great to get into like those scenes. But I'm like, I don't paint little monsters and or I don't know, or portraits and stuff, and none of this was working. So
Are you still gonna be doing you said comic books, that reminded me you do stuff for Revolution. Are
Mhm.
you still gonna be doing those next year? I know you did one this year.
So we've done 6. I don't know if we're done or not. We never really know. We
Gotcha.
are probably done, but they weren't opposed to the idea of me pitching like a different story, and maybe a shorter one. It's kind of like, what do we want to do? And it's like the same thing again. It's like figuring out our pitch and then just lobbing it over there. So I have an idea, and it's just we have to like get through the next couple months and figure out what we want to do.
Gotcha.
We did 6. It was a good solid run, but
I
we'll
didn't
see.
make it to that. Your other comment about pickles reminded me. I didn't go to the Revolution. There was an event happening at the brewery. I think it was last Saturday, and I got stuck at this
Oh, the
birthday
Freedom
party.
Fest, yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
ended up getting to that, and I don't drink right now, so I was like, I told my friends, I was like, I'm not gonna show up just to. Then there's this lobster truck I like, so I was like, I'll show up and eat a lobster roll, and then I didn't go, but they were like, because they have a thing which I think is cool. For $10, you can get in as a designated driver,
Mhm.
and then you can just hang with your friends and not drink, right?
They were also they were debuting their hop water though. You could have had one of the
Ew,
first cans.
fucking hard pass on that. Um, but they had like a pickle
Oh,
beer. My
hard
friend
water.
tried a hop
A
water, man. Hop
revolutionary
water.
So wait, sorry, hot water or hot? What did
Hop,
you?
hop. H O
hot dog
P.
water.
I was hearing hot dog water,
Yeah, I
No,
know what you heard.
which I was like, what? Like fucking who's selling hot dog water? That's insane.
Somebody would sell that, and somebody would drink that.
I probably tried.
They had a pickle beer apparently because my friend
I
said
was
he tried
I
a
was gonna
little
say
bit,
because it's the pickleback.
and my other friend got a pint. I was like,
Oh man,
disgusting. You would love it, yeah.
I
I'm
would
sure
love
you
it.
would.
I'm going to have it. That's for like when we're done. I have a pickle beer in the fridge waiting for me. So it's a Sucker Punch brand pickle beer. It tastes like pickle juice. It's amazing.
Ugh, no, I'm not a fan of
Like,
pickles.
I
So
may be that might be a case of like I would like it the first like third of the bottle, and then when I see like how much is left, I'd be like, oh Jesus Christ, I made a mistake.
Oh yeah,
That might be me.
it's very strong.
I mean, it took me a long time. Like I was always opposed to even like I mean, I'll probably go back to drinking at some point in my life. But when I used to drink beers, I used to always like I used to just get blondes or like a Kolsch. But then my friend one day brought over freedom of speech, like
Oh yeah.
peach, speech. But
Mhm.
it's peach flavored. It's like a sour, but it wasn't like so. I've had some sours where you're like, holy crap, who is
Yeah, the
drinking?
kids are like right here.
Yeah, I'm like, who's drinking a pint of this? Because I remember the first time I tried a sour, my friend gave me one and said it's gonna taste like a shock tart, and I said,
Mhm.
yeah, shock tarts aren't that bad. Except this thing was so bitter. I took like 2 sips and I was like, I'm not gonna drink this can, man.
Yeah.
And but freedom of speech, all that whole line, I think that's Revolution, right? That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's their sour
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
They have
That
the
that whole
lemonade.
series, everything's good in that series. The blackberry one, the strawberry
Yeah.
one. I was just like, these guys know what's up.
Have you tried any of the NAs? Like, there's so many. I drink a lot of
From Revolution.
no, just in general, like the BrewDog or like there's all these
No,
like brands that are doing like really solid
I
NAs.
tried one actually. I went to visit a friend who just moved out here. He lives in Naperville now, so it's closer to us. Um, it was dang it, it was like a ginger something beer. I forget the name of the company. It came in a bottle. It was non-alcoholic. It tasted pretty good, But then, I don't know. I felt weird after drinking it. So the bottle said it had like a point, like very very minimal, like so
Yeah,
low
all
it's
the
non-existent.
yeah, all the good and I don't like the hop waters or like those hop
Yeah.
seltzers. I think they're gross. But I usually always have like some NAs in the fridge and like because they're good now. Like the brew dog ones, but they always have like it's like point.
You bought some of those to IX last year, right?
I did, yeah, because I don't
Yeah.
like just sitting around
She's
and
like
drinking
casually
little
walking around, just drinking
hours.
these NAs. I was just like, all right,
Yeah,
good. I mean,
those are
good
good.
on you.
They're like a chocolate stout. It's like having a Yoo-hoo, basically, but it's in a beer can, so cool.
Apparently, they make non-alcoholic whiskey too, which whiskey
They
was my
do all of
jam.
those things now. Yeah, it's
Sounds
very
weird. It sounds weird.
I don't know
yeah.
if I would like a
How do you take
non-alcoholic
the
whiskey.
alcohol out of whiskey?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I kind of want
See?
to try the gin, but again, that just goes
No.
back to I like weird things, and I'm like, that's just drinking
Yeah.
pine tree seltzer, which sounds fine.
Ew.
It's a weird palate.
Let's get back to you.
Anyway,
What?
art,
Let's talk
art
about the
stuff.
WoolBeasts for a second. You're
Yeah.
trying to figure out what you want to work on. You come up with this idea for these, like, I don't know what you want to call them, magical, mystical creatures called
Mhm.
WoolBeasts. I remember at one point you were also making like little plushies and not sculpting them. I remember that because I wanted one.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
the evolution was I think it was 20 years ago I started crocheting them. I have one. Hang on a second. You'll love it.
I'm gonna steal it.
Oh yeah, I have a few here. Okay. So like this is this is the very first one. He's like 20 years old, right? This is
Nice.
this
Yeah.
is how your art career starts, guys.
Crocheting.
They
Crocheting.
were all crocheted. They got better, but they did get much better than
That
this because
still
then
looks cool,
I
man.
mean, yeah, that's still cool. Crocheting boggles my mind. Every time I see it, I haven't even tried it, but just looking, I'm like, nah.
Just watching someone do it, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, it's like a spider web happening. No, thank you. Hard pass.
I started so I got one of like also had like one of the very first Etsy shops. So like I made them and then put them in there and people bought them and I'm like, oh, now I have a job. Little side hustle. So then I was making them and then I couldn't crochet anymore because it's not very ergonomic. I have ergonomic crochet hooks, and even then, like there's only so much you can do before the hands
You gotta
cramp up.
hire
So then,
somebody to make your dolls.
right. So I taught myself how to sew. And so then I got a bunch of fancy wool felt and then I started sewing them. And then I could do different shapes and things because you can only do so much with yarn.
Oh
And then
yeah.
now I can do little and
Yeah,
I
because
knit them
the
little
sculpt has
stars.
some like stuff sewn onto it. The one I
Yeah.
have,
Oh,
it's
I
So
want
it's
to
a
like,
hybrid.
I want to put like a
That's a
stop
cool little
motion
creature.
skeleton in that. Yeah, I want to like
Yeah.
put like a little stop motion skeleton in and just animate it.
That thing looks like it's gonna put you over a fire pit and spin you while it's getting ready to
cute.
eat you.
I need your face. I did this for a long time. And this was how I started my Patreon. This was actually one of the things I made for my patrons. So I started my Patreon. I eventually figured out that they were called the WoolBeasts with these guys. And so I don't know how many years I was doing this, but then eventually there's the ceiling of perceived value for I mean I was making like had a gallery show that was all they didn't look like this. They were like wall mounted. They kind of look like, not taxidermy. I call them portal beasts. It was all these wall mounted beasts coming out of the I have one of those too. Love doing this in the art studio. So this is one of the pieces
Yeah.
from the show, the little guy.
Oh,
So
wow.
Mm-hmm.
I
so I
like that.
had like 30 of these in different sizes, and this is one of the simpler ones, like with different.
Sorry, that's sewn?
This is all sewn, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's all wool,
It's pretty
felt, and
cool.
wire. Thanks. So that was my first show at Rotofuji. Was a whole bunch of these guys. But like I said, there's a perceived value where it's like no matter how tiny the stitches or the detailing or the beading or anything that I did on these, there's a definite cap on how much work you can do and how much people are gonna pay for something
Sure.
that's squishy. Like you're just not gonna. It's not gonna get there. Also, I can't really sew anymore now because they're tiny, and you get this. It was a different set of muscles that was getting burnt out.
It's like you
So
just can't use your hands at all, man. That's what that tells us.
I drop shit all the time. These things are useless now. Um, so
God.
um 3 years ago, I was like, oh, I got really into like watching like, do you know who Jim McKenzie is? He's a sculptor. He's like super famous now. But he's a he was doing these like scarecrow sculpts and like all these things. And I got really into watching his YouTube
No,
videos.
I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah. So he would do these really like very theatrical YouTube videos of him like making his sculpts and like, oh, I can do that.
Oh God, they're
He's
really
got some
those. I
wild
saw those
sculpts.
sculptures.
Yeah.
I saw those videos. I forget.
Oh
Probably
yeah, I
2 or 3
remember
years
this
ago or
guy.
so. Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!"
The
Yeah.
one where he did with the like the lady with the tentacles coming out of the dress. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
watching that one. I was like,
Yeah.
this is trippy.
So I thought the solution was I would teach myself how to sculpt and then teach myself how to cast figures in resin. Um, so that's been the last 3 years. That's where I got to the point of having the second show at Roto Fuji's because it's kind of the culmination of that, right? I taught myself how to sculpt, learned how to do resin, got pretty good at it, practiced a lot, got better at painting, got an airbrush, like worked all the kinks out, and then felt confident. And the cosplay, this new material came out, and I worked with it for about a year and a half and tested it.
Okay.
So it just got to a point of being like confident, like, okay, now I'm ready to like do a big thing with this now. So I don't have any of those around because they're all gone.
I haven't tried the cosplay yet. How is it? 'Cause
I love it.
I've seen demonstrations of like how flexible it is.
Is
and
it
stuff.
easier than Sculpey? I mean,
It's
Sculpey's-
very, very flexible even after it's baked.
Yeah, so it's about the same. I use the cosplay medium firm. So I like it because it gets like super duper squishy when you're using it, and then if you let it sit overnight, it gets back to being firm and you can kind of scrape at it. That's also good. I do that to test like how weight because it could crack. So if you like, I'll sculpt and let it sit for 3 days and then see what has shifted and fix it back up. But I sculpted this. This is a prototype I made. I made a bunch of creatures with that had tails, and I wanted to make the tail. It's resin figures with cosplay tails. I have this on my desk. So I sculpted this 2 years right whenever the Kickstarter came out, and they shipped. This is from the original batch, and it's.
Oh wow!
So there's a wire. It's a thin. It's
so wild that it can do that.
Yeah, and it hasn't cracked. So this is the oldest one I have. This is like the very first batch of cosplay. It's never, and I just take it out and play with it every now and then. Eventually, it will. Like if you just keep like doing this, or if you did like a really rigorous like stop. Yeah, it will. But I just kind of leave. So you can stop motion with this stuff, and it just takes paint. I have a painted one somewhere, and the paint also on that one is fine.
I'm surprised to hear it's a polymer clay like that, like cosplay.
Yeah.
I thought you were sculpting in A's epoxy.
I tried that. I don't like it. It's just so hard to work with, and the texture is.
That's
it's weird.
None of that existed when I back in the day decided to try doing some sculpting stuff. I was using Roma. I think it's called Roma Plastilina. It came in like bricks. And I was watching what's the name of that company? How do you say it? Genomen or whatever it was? Nomen. So they had a video, this guy, where he shows how you build a box with a heat, not like one of those strobe lights.
That's John Brown sculpting.
Yeah, you use the clamp lights, right? And you build it on top of the box so it actually heats up. You have to cut the bromoplastina came in bricks. So I had like 7 or 8 bricks I lived in a studio apartment in the city at the time. It's just me, okay? And
that's
anyone who came over, you could smell that the sculpt. So I was trying to sculpt little sculpts for I used to be part of like there's a thing here called I don't know if you've seen Melissa in Schaumburg. It's called the Military Miniature Society of Illinois, and every October they put on a show at the Marriott by Woodfield there, where you can go check out little sculpts, painted sculpts. I don't know where any of mine are right now, but I've got like a little Raceland that I did. I've got a little like Simon Belmont looking guy. But either way, it used to be only miniatures, military miniatures. But at one point they said, let the fantasy guys in, because there were tons of us painting like D&D sculpts and stuff. And
Right.
then I started getting into sculpting because what I started doing was building busts, and I would build like I'd buy like a bust, I would build on top of it, like give him like a different arm or different face and all that. And the Roman plastilina was great for that. Except man, when
How
that
many
stuff
night
dries,
crawlers did you make?
one, not that one. um, but like the problem with Roman plastilina is when it dries, it's back to being like a brick basically.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So, but I
it's
remember
a wax.
watching that.
Yeah, wax clay.
It was cool clay until I'm trying to think where the Belmont
I
is. Oh, here.
when I started sculpting, I started with Super Sculpey, and
Mhm.
then I shifted over
So
to
here's one.
Chivant, which is like a Roma plastiline, but it's a little harder than the plastiline. Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
So this is a centaur. Yeah, this one was one of the few that I painted with oils, which I'll never do again. I don't know where the Belmont is, but there's a plastilina. This one's got the plastilina. Hang on. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I remember I went from
it's super
Chivant.
dusty.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, nice.
But I bought the skull from a guy, and I basically redid stuff like the skull, and then I gave him little guns and stuff. But this is all Roma plastilina, and
Huh.
it never won anything. This one
The
was not an award.
Plastiline's great. It has the same issue as like Chivant, where it's like if you really, I mean, that's amazing you've kept it as long as possible because since it's a wax clay, like any kind of heat will eventually just make it sag and start to melt.
I
So
mean,
you
I'm
really have
surprised
to,
it hasn't just like one of my kids
yeah,
hasn't
because like usually you
broken it.
just that's like one where you just mold and cast it for
Yeah.
resin, and then the original gets destroyed some way or another.
Yeah. I haven't
mean,
tried molding with cosplay yet. You probably can. I'm sure someone is
I,
talking about it online somewhere.
yeah, I think it's inert with platinum
Yeah,
silicone and all that,
it
so it'd
should.
be pretty easy.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna do resin. I probably do like a little more resin this year, and then I'll either hire it out or just stop doing it.
Hard. Like
here's here I found
short.
this Belmont piece I did. Now
Oh,
what
wow.
I did with him was I didn't. This one's got the sculpey. I used it to build his arm, but
Mhm.
he had a cool whip. It's snapped when I moved.
Oh man.
It
Like
just that just happens.
I picked up I started learning resin in like 2019. Like 2019, 2020 was like my big resin push of like trying to learn it.
Mhm.
And like I got a brain tumor around then as well and all that kind of stuff. So even like when I was recovering, I really couldn't draw when I was recovering, but I could at least sculpt. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna work on resin stuff and all that. But
Yeah,
it's so it's not like super hard to wrap your head around, but it's a lot of work.
it's just a
It's
lot of work. Yeah, I don't like using the chemicals because I do it in the kitchen like you do.
Yeah, in the oven. Why not?
Yeah. So I'm like not a fan of that anymore. And then just I think I'm finishing up like a big
gotta get
series
like a
right now, and
air
I'm like, I
filter.
like the idea of. I used to like the idea of making a whole bunch of a thing, and
Sure.
I just made like 14 of. This is one of my last ones, and I'm like, I don't want to make I don't want to make 14 of anything anymore. I just want to make one.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah.
you could basically say only one of this exists, right?
Yeah. So I think I want to focus on just doing like one-off sculptures for a while. But it is nice to be like, shop update. Hey guys,
These little things. Yeah.
Two
I have a
thousand
whole bunch of
dollars.
these things.
I'm right
So
I
now.
mean, you could do if you do resin. I think I do like you seen. I think in our group, um, in the model channel, Curran posted
mm,
his printer with like a whole. I mean, he's in like an apartment, right? And he's running this printer all day trying to print sculpts for Gen Con at this point. And he's got like a crazy case on it. He's got like a thing that's venting out the window.
Oh, you're
mhm.
saying like
Mine's
just
in the
like
garage.
more
I'm trying to
noodles?
get it running soon, but mine's been set up in the garage. But I like the idea of it being like right here behind me, but
Yeah.
also I don't want to take that risk of it leaking all over the house.
Like the oh god, what is it called? Like the chemical reactive resin is kind of noxious, but the I feel like the 3D printing resin is it smell like chemical resin. Like I've never noticed a smell, even though people say there's a smell, but like whenever I use it, I'm like, I don't really smell it. 3D printing resin, when I mess with it, it's like, yeah, this smells like it's gonna kill me.
Yeah, and that's the. I mean, I realize we have a in our garage. Who the guy who's lived here before has set up a heater that doesn't work. There's a gas line running to, which I need to check first to make sure if it's active. It's off, but I want to know if there's gas running to it, because if there is, I don't want to mess with it. But if it's off, what I'd like to ideally do is run the hose, because it's next to a vent that would vent the heat when the heater was on. So I think I can attach the hose right to that, and it would just vent out. Now, my concern with this move is my, old neighbor lives right next door. I'm like, I don't want to be venting towards his house, but also
I think outside it's probably
I think
fine.
outside it'd be all right.
I mean,
Yeah.
once it's in the air, like once it's in like the open air,
It should be fine.
It's minuscule compared to like the
Yeah.
rest of the composition in the air.
So
I think you'd be relatively fine unless your neighbor for
well, I mean,
standing right in
just
front of
standing
the
right there huffing.
Yeah.
fumes.
Don't do that. Yeah, and
Oh,
when
I
I
heard
do
the-
it in the kitchen, it's all the windows are open, and I have like my hat, like I have the big 3M like filter masks on, and like the goggles and the hazmat.
Do you
and
actually
everything.
bake stuff in your oven though? That was my concern with Sculpey all the time.
Well,
I'm like, I bake in here.
Resin, you don't have to do it because like
No, resin you just pour it and it
Oh,
makes
gotcha.
it.
Yeah, it's like a 2-part. There's one part that activates the other, and then
Got it.
it's a mass thing. Like the thicker it is, the quicker it's gonna cure, which is a weird concept to me.
It's weird. It gets really hot and it's toxic as hell. And don't touch it, because I touched it once and then got a
Yeah, like cut
big
your
old
skin
rash.
there. Oh,
I had some resin splash into my eye once.
oh my god.
And I freaked out because it was like it was a 10-minute cure, right? And this wasn't even like, I can't remember if I was
Goggles, everyone. Goggles.
I would never do it without goggles.
Yeah. After that, I did like, okay, I gotta fucking do goggles. I was
Yeah.
being lazy. It was like
That's usually how it happens.
yeah, I was being lazy. It was like my 5th or 6th like test of the dye set that I made.
Mhm.
And I wanted to try another one before I went to bed. So I'm mixing it and I poured it, and you kind of like, how they tell you in science class, like, hey, pour acid into water because the water will shoot up. Oops, sorry. The water will shoot up instead of like pouring water into acid. Because like if anything's gonna come up, if you do it the other way, you're gonna get acid in your face versus water in your face, right? So that's more or less what happened to me. Like I poured it and some resin just shot up out of the cup, hit my eye. So then I'm running to my sink and I'm just like eye washing myself just to like try and flush it into like
scary
beforehand. Yeah, no, it was that wasn't a fun night because I was like, holy shit, I hope I didn't blind myself.
Ventilation mask with the right VOC filters on it, guys.
Yeah.
Goggles, windows open.
You gotta have everything. You just cover your body up.
This shit is bad for you.
Honestly, like,
and we're over here like, let's make some sculpts with it.
Well, it's like anything that's
just
like
that easy.
Yeah, anything that's permanent is like kind of toxic. Like going back to what you said about the Sculpey, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that in an oven. I've done it a lot of times in my.
I used to do the Sculpey in the oven all the time, right? Because the instructions literally are like, you can bake this in your oven. And you're like, cool.
And but they also say don't.
And then you're making a pizza in there like an hour later.
Non-toxic. It's all that stuff's like yeah, sure. What? I did my whole art show in the oven.
Yeah, I'm sure
I
you
had to make sure everything was under whatever, like 12.5 inches, because otherwise it wouldn't fit.
I mean, I've talked to you. I've tried to pitch you before on making some 3D sculpts and just doing like a line of those things. But
no, I think I've just after like I said, like starting with like the crochet and then the sewing. It's like I think after like 15 years of making products, I'm kind of like
I want to make art.
I want to make some art, and then products that are like passive. In like
let's make some like we can make some like
or hire someone to make resin that I don't have to paint.
Yeah, I was gonna say like there's casting.
I mean, once I get this thing set up, we can run some tests over here. And be like, here, sell these as paperweights or something.
Awesome. Yeah, today I made 14 of these. These are like little, so these will go on the wall. They have hardware, and then they'll hang on the wall. So they'll hang out, and then today, and they all have because I'm an idiot. They all have. I braided all these. Made 10 of these
Little
goddamn things
bells.
today.
Is that going on your Etsy store?
Only 4 of them. So, and then they have like a little, because they're like, I don't know, little
That's
divinities or
cool.
something. They have like little.
Where are you going to be selling the other 10?
Those are going. I canceled. I stopped. I had a Patreon tier that was
Oh,
getting
gotcha.
like quarterly boxes, and I stopped that a while ago. So this is just the last of them. So yeah, but there's 4 that aren't going. That'll be in my shop in like whenever I do that.
Hmm. How much you selling those for in your shop? I'll talk to you later.
Um,
Don't worry about it right now. I'll talk to you later.
no,
I also got to ask, what's with the taxidermy birds on the wall back there? Did you shoot those things?
those are ducks. No, my dad did.
There you go.
Yeah, they moved houses and had to consolidate some of the taxidermy, so I
You're like,
adopted these ducks.
we'll take those weird things and put them on the wall. That's cool.
And that's Cardi B right there. This green
What?
thing.
Is it a
The
cart?
green monster. That was the box that people put cards in at the wedding.
Oh,
In his mouth.
Ah,
I love
Kind
that.
of behind a plant right now.
it's funny.
His googly eyes. We
I'm
call
not
him
gonna
Cardi.
lie, I'm weirdly fascinated by so like I know at least with like birds or whatever, you don't taxidermy the feet or something, like they give you like resin castings for that.
Oh, their
What?
feet are gross. I think those are actually their feet.
Oh, maybe I mean did he taxidermy
They probably
himself
taxidermy those
or
feet.
I think they're real feet. I haven't looked at. They're very dusty also.
I know there's some places though
Yeah,
that
all
sell like
this stuff's all dusty. I don't like, how do people like clean and keep
yeah,
those
no,
from?
there's some places that sell like you know, for eyes and all that, but they also sell like
Yeah.
different bird
Dude,
feet and
have you
all
ever been
that.
to like I have this taxidermy bat there, there,
Oh, well, I've got a
but
few. I don't have any. I guess I don't have any animals taxidermy, but I have insects preserved.
I've been to. Have you been to like one of those like oddity shop? Like I went to when I was in Portland for Rose City
Oh
once.
yeah,
Gavin took
Lowe's.
me to one of the shops out there, and it was just full of like the weirdest, randomest, creepiest stuff. Some of it was
Mhm.
cool. The bugs I could have done without.
Mhm.
But some of the stuff I'm just like, there's a lot of cool things in here. People
I
are
think
buying stuff
uh
left and right.
next weekend that crazy big show, the Oddities and Curiosities Expo or something
Yeah.
is coming
Are
is
you
going to be
going
in
to that?
Macomb. No, but a friend of mine is coming and staying at our place for like 4 days because she's doing it. She also works in wool. She makes wool skeletons.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
so
What?
she's selling. She'll be at
Like wool skeleton, like skulls.
yeah.
Who's this artist?
That's Lana
You
Crooks.
mentioned. I'll have to look that up later.
But she works for like one of those stores in Portland doing like professional taxidermy restoration.
I bet you
So
she works for the one because the one I went to was big. They had oh like a giraffe, and then they had like, I'm trying to remember if it was a rhino or something. It's something big on the wall. I can't remember what it was. I just remember thinking that can't be real. That's like
mhm,
I went to the oddity show in Nashville once because I was on a boys trip to Nashville, and
mhm.
I was told there's this oddity show. Let's go check it out. And I went there, and there's this dude in the back row. He had all these taxidermy like animals, right? And found out later that some of those weren't really done properly because they were like falling apart or they smelled weird. And I was just like, glad I didn't buy anything from that guy. But I remember
We
he
also
had like all sorts of things. What the hell?
it's a stuffed
Whoa!
deer.
I see
Get
it.
it? Get it?
I love that.
It's a puppet. You can stick your hand in its mouth.
Like Evil Dead style.
Yeah.
Oh
My
my
um
goodness.
my niece, I have a little like 3-year-old niece. She came to visit and we took it off the wall and chased around the house with it.
I think the craziest thing I've seen on a person on a interviews guest wall is what's oh man, why is Cody and what's Cody's wife's name? Oh, there's a tornado warning. Audra.
Again?
We had Audra on, remember, and she had this giant like brontosaurus sculpt thing on her wall. It was almost as big as you are, Melissa. I was like, holy crap. And it's just like, it was just hanging in their living room. And I was just like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, tornado warning is in this area until 9:45. Take shelter in the basement now. Better go do that.
All right. That means we'll get it in half an hour.
Yeah. That's why my wife is running downstairs, I think. So all right, well, thanks for being on, Melissa. I appreciate you jumping on at the last minute.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. It was super fun.
But before you go, you got to tell everyone where they can find all your socials and your information.
Just my website, melissasuestanley.com. It's got links to all the things.
And your gallery show is until the end of the month, is that right?
End of the month, yep, in Chicago at Rotofuji. And then it's online. I think there's only 3 pieces left, so.
Oh, wow. Yeah, congratulations.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did that big one move? The guy with the map?
Yep.
Awesome.
Allen, where can we find you besides TikTok?
Thanks. Ancientones.net. If you type in AllenPanakal.com, it'll point you there too. AllenPanakal art and any socials, yes, except TikTok because the guy's still on it. I'm on Blue Sky now. I got in there, and I'm on Threads, same name, AllenPanakal art. TikTok, I am the real AllenPanakal because that's what my lawyer told me to write.
That's all we need to know.
That's it.
Because you're the genuine deal.
I'm the real deal. And Andrew, where can we find
insightsart.com, sign up for the newsletter or Patreon.
Cool. All right. Our next guest is
it'll be Jason Engel.
Jason Engel. Yeah, we're gonna do a show about pretty much being at a convention, and the ones that were coming up are Gen Con and Dragon Con. They're 2 big ones.
And then after that, we're gonna try and shift our scheduling a little bit because we're gonna
go bi-weekly.
Yeah, we're bi-weekly. We're gonna go bi-weekly after Jason, because we tend to be like
those are tornado sirens now.
All right, go in the basement.
I'm going, guys. I don't want to be up here anymore.
Just short of it. We're gonna be bi-weekly after Jason, so hopefully that'll be more consistent.
Have a good yes, exactly. That'll keep us on track. All right, have a good night, guys. Thanks for everyone's watching. Thanks, Melissa. I'll see you guys later.
See you guys.
Yeah, Melissa, pay attention to your weather.